we are going to talk about architecture. Architects design buildings and the structures around us. To learn more about architecture, we're going to actually look at the design of a children's museum. So let's watch a quick video and have one of the workers from the museum discuss architecture.
In our cities, we see everything, from buildings to bridges, all of which are carefully designed and built by architects. But what is an architect? An architect is a person who plans, designs, and oversees the construction of a building. Focusing on artistry and design, they get to choose the size, shape, and what the buildings will be made from. Today, we're going to discover what steps an architect must take to make their dream become a reality. We're going to be using our own museum as our main example. Our first stop, back to when it was just an idea. Before they could start building, all architects start with bubble diagrams, which are sketches that they use to identify what areas of the building will be included in the drawings. The purpose of these diagrams are to understand how rooms connect and how spaces are going to flow from one to the next. Architects use these bubble diagrams to help them out with space organization and planning. The architects use these bubble diagrams to make technical drawings known as blueprints. Let's flash forward to 2008 and take a look at some from the museum. These blueprints act as a guide for making the building, a lot like a Lego instruction book, telling you what materials to use and where exactly to put them, along with sketches known as renders that show you what the final product will look like. Once those blueprints are approved, it's time to start construction.
Now that we learned about architecture, let's talk about skyscrapers. They're the tallest structures that we have. And here you could see two skyscrapers, and you could see the comparison of then and now. And it says, did you know that the first skyscrapers were just 10 stories tall? William Lee Barron Jenney built the first building to scrape the sky in 1885. The development of the steel frame and the elevators made skyscrapers possible. The first building to reach 100 stories was the Empire State Building, which was built by the architectural firm Shreve, Lamb, and Harnon in 1931. See how its height compares to the height of a person? So down here would be a person, and this shows the building at 1,250 feet. So this was one of the world's largest buildings when it was first built in the 1930s. Now, here's the world's tallest building. It says, think about this. The height of the world's first skyscraper equals 30 people, each 6 feet tall, stacked head to toe. The height of the Empire State Building equals 280 people, stacked head to toe. It would be 453 people to reach to the top of today's tallest skyscraper, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. United Arab Emirates, designed by American architect Adrian Smith. The structure is a whopping half-mile tall. See how it compares to other towers. On this skyscraper website, you could see where the skyscrapers are located around the world, and you could click to see a graphic which compares them by height. This diagram shows you the world's highest skyscrapers sorted by height, and you could see the variety of architecture. What we're going to do today is we're going to pretend to be architects. Our architecture project, let's learn the lingo. Blueprint, a technical scale drawing for a building, a house, or other architectural structure. Traditionally printed with white lines on a blue background. Construction is the act of building something. Facade is the front face of a building, often the fanciest or most detailed of all four sides. Materials, substances such as bricks, wood, sand, cement, or clay that are used to construct a building. A model, a small-scale, three-dimensional structure built from wood, foam, or cardboard. Models are used by architects to study the design for a future building or to communicate ideas that show how a building will look. You can see some examples of architecture here, and notice the colors. The colors that we find in architecture are often neutrals. You're seeing shades of brown, tan, gray. They do not appear on the color wheel, but can be mixed by combining two complementary colors, such as red and green or blue and orange. So if you mix your complements, you get a neutral. We find neutrals in nature. They are the colors we see in rocks, cement, sand, dirt, or clay. Neutral colors make good backgrounds. They help put focus on other colors or serve to tone down colors that might otherwise be overpowering on their own. Because of their resemblance to natural materials, neutral colors are often used in buildings or other architectural structures. So when we make our designs today, make sure you pick neutral colors like blacks, tans, browns, grays, whites. Now it's time to design a project. Let's get started with our two options. Option 1 is designing a skyscraper on the digital art tool Icograms, and option 2 is drawing in 1-point perspective on paper. Following this tutorial.
This tutorial will show you how to draw a city street in 1-point perspective. Your end result will look something like this. You'll draw a few simple buildings next to a road leading off into the distance toward one vanishing point. You use 1-point perspective when you're drawing a street with buildings viewed straight on, where one wall is facing you head-on and nothing is turned at an angle. So the wall that you're facing would look like a normal rectangle. Only the walls that are going back into the distance will look like trapezoids, because the part of the wall that is farther away looks smaller than the part of the wall that is close. So with 1-point perspective, each building will have one wall that looks like a rectangle and one wall that looks like a trapezoid. If you were trying to draw a scene where the buildings are turned at an angle, like a street viewed from the corner, then you wouldn't use 1-point perspective. In that case, both walls would be going back into the distance away from you. So the edges of those buildings would meet at one vanishing point on the right side and one vanishing point on the left side, and all of the walls would look like trapezoids. So to start your drawing, place your paper horizontally in landscape orientation. The first thing you're going to draw is the horizon line. It doesn't have to be right in the middle, it could be anywhere, but while you're learning, it's just easier to put it somewhere near the middle. The horizon line shows the division between the land and the sky. It also represents the eye level of the viewer. So you'll be able to look down and see the top of any building that's completely below the horizon line. And if a building crosses over above the horizon line, you would not be able to see the top of it because it's above your eye level. So on your horizon line, you should choose one point that will become your vanishing point, where all of the converging lines in your drawing will appear to meet. Again, this doesn't have to be right in the middle, but for now you can put it somewhere near the middle to keep things simple. Now you can draw a road by making a couple of lines that converge at the vanishing point. And you can draw 2 more lines to make a sidewalk on each side. To make your first building, you should start with the part that is closest to you. And in 1-point perspective, that would be a wall that looks like a simple rectangle, since it's not at any kind of angle. For this first building, make your rectangle cross over the horizon line. To draw the wall that's going back into space, you'll draw converging lines to show that the part of the building that's far away looks smaller than the part that's close to the viewer. Then you need to show the back corner of the building, because right now it looks like it goes on forever. To cut it off, decide how far back you want the building to go, and then draw a parallel line. The front edge of the building is vertical, so of course the back edge has to be vertical too. Now, if you erase any unnecessary lines, you can see the outlines of your first building. To draw windows, you follow the same rules. If the window is on the wall that's going back into space, then the part that is farther away will look shorter than the part that is close. So the top and bottom of the window will be converging lines leading to the vanishing point. And the left and right parts of the window will be vertical lines, just like the corners of the wall that it's on. If you want to draw a window or door on the wall that you're facing, it will just look like a regular rectangle, because this wall isn't going off into the distance, we're just looking at it head-on. Now let's try drawing a short building that's entirely below the horizon line. It's below eye level, so you'll be able to look down onto the top of the building. Draw a simple rectangle to start. To show that the building has depth, you'll need to connect the corners to the vanishing point. Now that it looks like a 3D building, you can decide how far back you want it to go and then cut it off. Just like the first building, you'll need a vertical line to finish off the wall, just like the vertical corner in front. And to cut off the top of the building, it will need to be a horizontal line like the one in the front, since the top of the building is flat. Erase unnecessary lines, and you can see your little building and look down onto the top of it. Now, for a challenge, let's try drawing another building that's pretty close to the first one. Start off by drawing the wall that's facing you, which is just a normal rectangle. Then, same technique as before, you're going to connect the corners to the vanishing point. But now you can't just cut off the building wherever you want. It has to end before the building next to it starts. So try to leave a little bit of space between the two buildings so that you can walk in through the door. So draw a vertical line to cut off the back wall, and a horizontal line to cut off the back edge of the top. Erase unnecessary lines, and now you can't see the doorknob because the new building is blocking our view, but you can see that you could walk in between those two buildings. So there you go. That's how you draw a simple city view in one-point perspective.
The second option is to use icograms and to build a skyscraper. There's many different options for types of buildings that you could stack on top and design your own skyscraper. Pick choice 1 or 2 and don't forget to do your exit ticket.